going live. Not loving the new YouTube interface. All right, today, Tales from the Bench, we are going to see if we can get data from Mrs. Mitchell's phone. And here's the note. So this is another kind of rice case, another chance to see what happens when you put your phone in rice. That's why I picked this one. And it looks pretty bad, so I don't know if we're going to be able to recover it or not. Another reason I picked this case for a stream is because we haven't had one for a long time that we could not recover. So let's take this one. All right, here's the deal with the note. The description is my wife, not me, my wife bought a waterproof case for her phone prior to a trip to the Caribbean for Christmas. What a great time. Caribbean Christmas. The case was a, quote, the case was a good deal. A good deal. The case was a good deal, probably because it did not work. Mrs. Mitchell's bad deal. Some water got in, we removed it from the case and dried it overnight in what? Dried it overnight in rice. But wait, we know that rice does nothing. Rice does nothing. Dried it overnight in rice, but you're kidding. It doesn't turn on. Hoping to get data recovery as there's also a European trip with 0 copies anywhere. All right, so let's see what we can do for Mrs. Mitchell's bad deal of a phone. So here it is. This is iPhone 6S, and we're going to take a look at it. Now, I just did a stream the other day on a rice phone, just so that you could see what does it actually look like inside a phone that got wet. This one was inside a waterproof case, got wet, and you can see it's all corroded. One of my favorite things, I haven't taken this board out yet. I did take out the screws, is that this one, see if you can notice what is weird just from looking at it under the microscope briefly without even taking the board out. Let's see if we can go under the microscope and check it. So check this out. This was hilarious. So this looks all corroded, but look at that. What looks weird in this picture? Does anybody see it? What in the heck is this guy doing here? There is a hitchhiker. There's a stowaway. What the heck? There is no screw that belongs there. This guy's just hanging out there for no reason. And he was like that when I first opened up the phone. Look at how much rust is in that screw. And white stuff everywhere. Everything else looks pretty much the same as it was. Look at all that. Lot of what looks like salt water. That's a lot of corrosion. All right, time to take the board out. So I've already taken out the screws just to make this an easy job. So here's the screw tray, and we're going to disconnect the battery and see what we can do. Now, it's really funny. On my rice video from the other day, there's already a bunch of folks telling me I'm an idiot and that I'm misleading people with this fake news that rice doesn't fix phones because it sure fixed 2 of them. It is really hard to get people to stop putting their phones in rice. It is crazy. All right. Now, let's see. There's one more screw left under there. All right, here we go. What's going on with chat? Hospitalization and exhaustion. I need to do a better job of making it so that I can follow along with chat and not get lost. Rice works better with General Tso's chicken. All right. Probably didn't work because the seals were garbage. Okay, let's take a look together. Maybe it's not as bad as we think. I assumed that this one was going to be a really bad one just from how it looked on the outside, but maybe not. All right, so this looks grungy over here on the top side. And we've got some schmutz all along there. What is this? Crystals of who knows what. It's always a bad sign when the corner of the paper tape is corroded itself. When you get to the point of corroding a piece of tape, that's not good. All right, let's see. Did water actually penetrate underneath the sticker shield? I bet that it did. I'm gonna guess that right around here in Chestnut and his brethren is going to be corroded. But what do I know? Let's find out together. Let's see what's going on. All right, so this part looks pretty good. And it doesn't look like there's anything under chestnut. But we'll see. Maybe this phone is going to be an easy one after all. So far, so good up here on the top. You know what, Mrs. Mitchell, maybe that case was a great deal and this phone's going to be totally fine. All right, let's move down. And a lot of times the water will only hit either the top or the bottom or one side or another side. So let's see. This one we'll have to take a look at and see, did water actually get under this shield? Nope. I'm going to have to rename this stream then, because this one does not, the logic board doesn't look as bad. In fact, this one is the exact kind of thing where water gets in the phone, put it in rice, and it comes out working when it looks like this. This is, in the important parts, this is pretty minor so far. All right, let's see. Let's continue our exam. Looks pretty, that's not good looking up here by the power button. That could be a tough spot. Oh, here's a capacitor from who knows where. Hanging out. Looks good around here. Looks pretty good in these common areas. This one's looking good. I take it back. This one does not look pretty bad. So that means I need a new name for this stream, because when it turns into a video, it is too misleading to say that this one looks really bad. It doesn't look bad. It looks pretty standard, or in fact pretty good. So what do you think? Should I just go with Mrs. Mitchell's bad deal from Amazon? I really want to know what case that she actually got. So in this situation where now, you know, I'm really not convinced that there's anything wrong with this board at all, other than just up here at the power button connector. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it's really even worth it to desolder these shields. But I will take off the top one, because there is at least some evidence of water up here in the top, which tends to like to go around the backlight circuit. So we'll take a look. We'll take a look in there. It's going to be a drag if Mrs. Mitchell's bad deal is really totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. All right. That'll go under, you can't judge a book by its cover. Look at this, though. I mean, that is really, really, really grungy. Can you pick that up? Look at that. It's like you could sprinkle that stuff on some fries. That's pretty, look at the screen and look at the ear speaker where it undoubtedly came in. Can you see that? This is all just covered in corrosion. I'm not sure that this camera can see that or not. Can it? Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Now that's, come on, Rice, can't you at least fix that little bit of stuff? No? Yeah. All right. Screen looks bad. Board looks great. Good news. All right, so now we're just going to take off this top soldered on shield. Where's my, oh, I zoomed it in. Zoom it back out. Whee! There we go. And let's desolder this shield. We might be able to get Mrs. Mitchell's vacation photos before I have to pick up the kids. Today is the first day of the annual parents' nightmare called The Kids Are Starting Ski Club, which is a giant free-for-all for kids. All right, let's take a look and see what does it look like here under the microscope. Yeah, looks great. So in the backlight area, which is right around here, this looks pretty good. I think that this is the worst spot of it. Power button. So this one, I think we can clean this up with a little bit of alcohol and maybe we'll be good to go. Maybe this one will be solved by rule number 1. Never forget rule number 1, which is you don't have a board problem until you know for sure that you don't have a parts problem, just bad screen, battery, dock, that kind of thing. Alrighty, this is so funny because I have spent most of today working on a single case that's not a good one to stream because it has image only when using a dongle. So I can't really show that, but it is sporadic and it doesn't have touch, and it's a real irritating case, I'll tell you that. It's been working on it, I don't know, 4 or 5 different entire sessions. So a nice easy one would be fantastic. And here's a little dude. Where'd you come from, bro? I think you came from right there. Or your buddy. I am in the camp of trying to vigorously scrub with alcohol when I put things in ultrasonic when I'm working on iPhones. Because if a component is only held on there by spit, then I want it to come off. I want it to declare itself. I'm messed up. And it's really easy to see something if you can just kind of knock it right off. That's really easy to see that it's missing. That's easier to pick up on when you're looking for damage spots. All right, so there's a lot of crud here at this power button. And we're gonna make sure that these lines aren't corroded together. And I think that they probably were. So we're just gonna undo that and get this fairly useless waterproofing that didn't seem to do its job. I'm pretty sure the function of this stuff I'm taking off is to make the phone waterproof, but it doesn't really work out. Hi from Egypt! Hi! Hi from the UK! Hi, everybody! All right. They tell you that it's unfixable and that you have to buy a new one. Oh, man. I have one that I'm going to stream. I might even just make it a video because it's a really, I think, a really important story for next week. I'm getting the details on, but man, it is pretty unbelievable. Not quite sure what's the best way to present that case, but it's pretty wow. Okay. So just for fun, let's look up and see which one of these is indeed the power button itself, just for fun, because I think this board has a pretty good chance of just turning right back on. So this is 6S, and the one that's really grungy looking is that one. You guessed it, it's the power button. See how it says button hold key? Hold key is Apple's word for power button, and Apple's word for home button is menu key. So if you think back to the old iPod mini with a click wheel, and that thing had a top button, but it wasn't called a power button, it was called a hold key. Orange side or the regular side, hold key, and the click wheel was called menu. So it wasn't home button and power button. And that phrasing, hold key, has persisted. And now when we're looking, if you type in the schematic power button, you won't find it. What you'll find is hold key. So this is the actual power button line, this one that is hyper corroded on our board. So now we kind of have a mechanism, and it sort of makes sense that, let's turn that around to match. So this is the ZXW side. So here is hold key, and look at the corrosion on that. See how it's all green and scuzzy even after having cleaned it up? So that means, let's look back to ZXW and see what were the neighbors there. That means that this guy here, the power button, if corrosion is electrically attaching it to ground right next door, then that's going to be as if you were constantly pressing the power button. And that is a live voltage that's always there. 1V8 always is always making 1.8 volts there from the battery. So that would short that out and deplete your battery and make it so that that you couldn't actually turn the phone on. And that's the big deal. All right, so let's make real sure that we have that like really separated. In fact, it would almost even make sense just to get data off of this phone to just take this whole thing out so that it didn't have any chance of electrically talking to each other. But let's do a little bit more work on that. I still don't think it's really worth putting this whole board through ultrasonic. So this was almost certainly a failure of the ear speaker, or I guess it could be buttons over there. You know, when you think about how, you know, water was, a drop of water went right here, and this is always electrically active. All right, let's see. All right, so that's definitely corroded. It's not just plastic, but good enough. And we don't really need the power button to get this phone to work. All right, so now let's kind of look around. Did we miss anything? How's it all looking now? I just don't think water got in that bottom half of the phone. It looks beautiful right there. Looks fine there. Looks fine there where it typically goes under chestnut. I don't think I've ever seen it not go there. Looks great. So we're going to say ready to turn on, maybe. This is going to be a nice little short case for today. And if so, then it really just teaches us one lesson. Rice does nothing. All right, so let's find out. We're going to grab some known goods and see whether or not we can get some good news for the Mitchell family. All right, so I've got a known good everything over here. Let's plug this in. Now, we don't really need the backlight to work, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with backlight. I think it's going to work just fine. iPad Rehab. Did the screen look like a factory original, or had it been previously replaced? That is a very good question. We'll come back and look at that screen. Maybe the phone had a poor seal. All right, let's see. How can we make it so that we can all check it out? All right, there we go. Let's prompt it to boot, not with a power button. Let's prompt it to boot with a good old-fashioned charge port connection. And what happens? I see an Apple logo. Will it boot? Will it boot? Let's see. Will it boot? So we are going to we are tired of hearing about rice. Guess what? Too bad. Too bad. I don't care. If you are tired of hearing about rice, you could do this. Go take your cursor up to the top of your screen. There's a red square with an X. Just click it and it goes away. Then you don't have to hear about rice anymore. Just make sure that you don't click on another video that's about rice doing nothing. All right, we'll see. Will this phone boot? It's resurrecting from a long, long slumber. And we'll have to see. Is it going to boot or is it going to hang on the Apple logo? All right, so looking at their screen here, it looks pretty original. Uh-oh. Phone is disabled. Boo! What does that mean? That means that they lost display. Ah, do they have touch? Yep. That means that this screen had it lost its display, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is the water that went in there. That the phone was on, the screen blanked out, but touch was still working. And so that phone, in fact, probably couldn't have been turned off because the on button was shorted to ground. So there's no way to turn it off unless you open it up and pull the battery. And so as a result, then it's going to ghost touch, or even in your pocket when you're trying to beat on it. You're entering the passcode even though you can't see it. So touch is separate from display, which is real similar to the case we've been working on all day. We can have image but no touch. So you have to have both touch and image. So image can go out without killing touch, and that looks like what happened in this phone. The screen had touch active, but probably backlight in the screen burnout or something like that, so they couldn't see it. So now what are we going to do? This is, here's your lock screen. Yeah, so if there's no countdown, here's the deal with phones that are in this state. If it is already permanently disabled, then we're going to say there is no path to data for most civilian cases. There's no path to data on a disabled phone for most civilian cases. Now, there's a couple of exceptions to that, and if you have a special case, you can certainly write in and ask. Go to iPadRehab.com and click chat with us to just ask about it, because there are some exceptions to that general rule. And a lot of that depends on whether or not the device is updated to the most current iOS. So if this is on iOS 13, then for this one, there's going to be, stick it in a drawer until there's a different answer. And that probably will happen down the road, but not today. If it were on an older iOS, then there may be some exceptions. So there you go. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave the title on this one, which is this phone. We cannot get the data from it today. And for those of you who are tempted to take a phone in this state and update it, hoping that iTunes gives you another crack at the passcode, that generally does not work anymore with modern phones. And what it does do is it takes a phone that may be on an old iOS and it puts it on a new iOS so that it absolutely has no options today. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go call up Mrs. Mitchell and find out if she happens to know if this might be on an older iOS. Otherwise, she has no hope, and this is a sad, sad story. No data for you. Sorry about your bad deal. Stick it in a drawer, and if this happens to you, if you're in this state, things change. Things that used to not be possible, or what we call not possible with today's technology, that does change over time. So you want to hang on to a device like this. When you do that, write the passcode on the device. Stick it in a drawer. That way you don't forget what the passcode is. You're going to need to know what that passcode is if you're in this situation. All right, and let's see. That is, has the background of at least iOS 10. Yeah, it has to be on iOS 11 or less for this device. I helped someone the other day thanks to your video when you use the tester. Very good. What do you do if it's an old iOS? Send it to iPad Rehab. But you also, if you're, we can help you here's the other requirement so that I don't get a ton of calls. You must be the owner of the data. It can't be somebody that died. It's got to be you. You must be the owner of the data. You must be able to prove that, which means you must know what's on the phone. It's got to be pictures of you. We're going to verify all that on any kind of a phone that is in this state. This one you're going to need to know the passcode for. So if these guys do know the passcode and it's on an old iOS, then maybe we can help them. We'll have to find out. What exactly does disabled mean? Disabled means that the device has had the wrong passcode entered too many times. So this device has had the passcode entered by ghost touching when it had no display, but it was on. In fact, this would be a case where Rice killed this phone, right? Rice killed this phone. If they hadn't put it in Rice for that 24 hours or however long, if they had gone straight to a store that could have opened up this phone, any store, there's nothing really wrong with this. Any store could have opened it up and put on a new screen, and it probably would not have been permanently disabled. Because what does it take to get permanently disabled? It has to enter the passcode wrong, and then it'll say wait 1 minute. And then enter the passcode wrong, wait 3 minutes, right? It has this sort of sequential wait time. That's what was happening the entire time that this device was just hanging out in Rice or being manipulated or handled, or I put it in Rice, and so now I'm trying to get it. Just don't touch it. Don't touch it. Go straight to somebody that can help you. This one, I think, is killed by this idea that we can hope for the best and put it in Rice. So if data's important to you, get it opened up and disconnected from the battery as fast as you possibly can. All right, there's no way to log in by another way. No, there is not. So sounds like horrible software design or excellent software design, because if you think about how would you design around the idea that I could take your phone, and what if I really could just read the data off of the flash memory chip? The amount of time that it would take me to just steal your phone, desolder a chip, read the chip, put it back together, stick it back in your, you wouldn't miss the phone. People could do that, right? So that has been designed around so that it is more difficult for you to be able to actually get the encrypted data on the phone, because so much of our lives are on these phones now. So passcode is absolutely required. And why is this disabled? It's disabled so that you can rest assured that somebody can't steal your phone and then just start guessing the passcode, and eventually get into your phone and all of your data. You know, so it works pretty well. Can't you just swap the data chip? No, you cannot. The data chip is married to other essential chips on that logic board, which makes sense, right? How would you design around preventing somebody from just taking the data chip and reading it? That would be too easy. I mean, then we might as well not have passcodes at all, right? If you really could, you know, somebody picks up your phone and runs away with it and they can just read the data, then no need to even have a passcode. It would be that easy to just get into anybody's phone, right? Put a booby trap instead of another booby trap. Aren't Apple syncing pictures and whatnot like Android phones? They can get into any iPhone now. Not civilians. It's done so that you can take it back to Apple and sell you a new phone. All right. What will connect it to iTunes? What will connect to iTunes do if it's disabled? It will ask if you would like to restore. So you could restore this phone, just to be clear. Yeah. So it's not going to connect to iTunes. Right now, it should connect to iTunes, but it's not. It's not going to connect to iTunes unless you put it in recovery mode. And then it will prompt for you to restore or update. If you update, in most cases, this phone will just return to this disabled state. That didn't used to be the case, but it seems to be the case now. Alrighty. How does it wipe the data, or is it encrypted then written on the chip? All right, that's all the time that we have for today. And the result for this sad case is that there's really absolutely nothing wrong with this logic board as it sits here right now. But this phone is disabled because it went in rice, and it sat in rice for long enough for it to ghost touch the passcode too many times, and now the phone is disabled. And if your phone is disabled for civilians, you're pretty much out of luck unless you happen to fit a couple of cases. And if you have a phone that's disabled and it's your data and you can prove that, and it's an older phone on an older iOS, then feel free to give us a call. You know, click up there, iPad Rehab, and we'll see if you have any options or not. And that is it for this stream. Hopefully we can dig up a more interesting case next time, something that we really can't fix.